A rape case from nearly 4 decades ago could become a political problem for Hillary Clinton as new details now emerge about her legal defense of a 41-year-old man accused of raping a 12-year-old girl back in Arkansas. The Washington Free Beacon published audio tapes of Clinton discussing the case with Arkansas reporter Roy Reed back in the 1980s. In an interview last week with the website Mumsnet on her book tour, Clinton indicated she had no choice but to represent the man as a court-appointed lawyer.
I asked to be relieved of that responsibility, but I was not, and I had a professional duty to represent my client to the best of my ability, which I did. He later pled guilty to a lesser included offense. When you're a lawyer, you often don't have the choice as to who you will represent, and by the very nature of criminal law, there will be those who you represent that you don't approve of, but at least in our system, you have an obligation, and once I was appointed, I fulfilled that obligation.
But that may not be the whole story. Joining me now are USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page and Washington Post national political reporter Karen Tumulty. Welcome both. Well, first, the Washington Free Beacon has dug into all of this, and let's see what reporter Alana Goodman had to say. That the response appears to be at odds, the response that she just gave to Mumsnet, appears to be at odds with Clinton's comments to Roy Reed in the 1980s. She told Reed in the recordings that the local prosecutor, Mahan Gibson, asked her to take on the case as a personal favor. Quote, "The prosecutor called me a few years ago. He said he had a guy who had been accused of rape, and the guy wanted a woman lawyer," said Clinton. "Would I do it as a favor to him?" And then we have this recorded conversation that the Free Beacon also posted of what she had to say back in the 80s about this case.
Of course, he claimed that he did all this stuff. He took a lie detector test. I had to take a polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs.
So it seems that she knew the guilt of the assailant. Now, a lawyer does take that on, but she's claiming at the same time that she was court-appointed, which is one thing, and well, the other reporting is that she did it as a favor.
That she did it as a favor. And there's a certain sort of, I don't know what the right word would be, maybe a swagger, a dismissiveness of the case after the fact. And again, those are the contemporaneous, or at least closer to contemporaneous accounts. So yes, I think there's a record of this case somewhere, and people will be digging into it. And it is at odds with her version of events now.
Well, it's also possible they'll find some way to square the circle, like the prosecutor called and said, "We need a lawyer for this guy, will you do it?" And then the judge appointed her. I suppose it's possible that both things can be true. But I agree, I think the tone of her comments is what raises concern, and also her decision as a lawyer to attack the credibility of this 12-year-old girl who was saying she had been raped. You know, but what I don't think she's going to get questioned on is the fact that in our system, if you're the lawyer defending a defendant, even somebody you don't like, you give them the best defense you can. That doesn't settle every question that's raised by this, though.
It is surprising that this is coming out now, but it just explains or explicates the fact that Hillary Clinton is going to be challenged on everything, even the most basic part of her biography, which is that she's always been an advocate for women.
And she is a person, a public figure, who has had a very, very long public life, many decades at this point. And yes, when she runs for president, it will once again come under scrutiny.
You said when, not if.
If and when she runs for president.
I would agree with you that it's when, given all of the indices from the book tour. I watched her in Aspen, by the way. I disagreed with the Wall Street Journal story yesterday. I was there for that speech in Aspen last week, and I did not see her trying to differentiate herself from the Obama record, no more so than she has in her book with something we already knew, which is that she advocated for a more muscular policy on Syria than he did. She wanted airstrikes, and you know, I just don't see her really taking that route now. Maybe later on, but I don't see her separating herself from this White House.
But isn't this a story we'll be writing for the next 2 years? The way in which she's got to chart her own course that's distinct from that of President Obama and distinct from that of President Clinton, as a matter of fact, right? It's one of the things that she'll need to do, that anybody needs to do when they've worked for the incumbent and you're running for president yourself. That's not unusual. She does, I think, in her book outline a somewhat more muscular strategy on foreign policy, not just on Syria, but also on Russia, on Egypt. And when I interviewed interviewed her about her book, I asked her if she had a different approach on worldview than President Obama, and she said whether she was more realistic, less idealistic. And she said, I think of myself as an idealistic realist, but I know that you cannot just wish things away.
So you think that she was trying to carefully separate herself?
I think she has a somewhat different worldview than President Obama. Not hugely different, but in any number of places in the world you can see her taking a somewhat more traditional, more muscular view of what the United States should do in some of these trouble spots.
I do think that, Karen, that, well, people are writing she has to show that she's forward-looking and that she's got the future in mind, given how many years she's been in the public eye. I think just by virtue of being a woman and the most successful woman, female political figure in our times and any time in this country, that gives her a certain edge and distinguishes herself from any male politician.
But you'll recall, though, the last time she ran for president, she spent the whole first part of that campaign downplaying that. The whole Mark Penn strategy was that she had to go out and sort of prove herself as somebody that people could be comfortable with as a commander-in-chief, and she really downplayed the gender. What we see her going into the campaign that may or may not happen now is really sort of leading almost with gender.
Indeed, which is why this story, the rape story, could be troubling, depending on how it plays out. Thank you so much, Karen and Susan Page. And this hour...